Today we are going to make a zipper, a simple unlined zipper pouch. We need a zipper any length greater than 7 inches. I use double stick zipper tape, and if you want to use a little piece of grosgrain for a zipper pull, that makes it nice. And I use these 8-inch by 8-inch designer squares because I have tons of them. So the first thing we're going to do, and let me see if I can get in really close there and show you how to cut this. I don't want to waste any fabric, so I use the edge of my last line there, so it's just 1/4 of an inch on my ruler, and cut all the edges of the square to 1/4 of an inch of selvage, so it has 1/4 inch white line. And that one's already cut. So going to this one, and today I'm using an Echo canvas, which is a great fabric because it's very durable, but we have to take a few extra steps because it frays quite a bit. So I'll show you as we go what we're going to do for the Echo canvas. Okay, so now we have the square that has just 1/4 inch white edge around it. Okay, and we have a zipper. So we're going to attach the zipper. My zipper is way too long, but that doesn't matter. So we're going to sew right on the place where the white and the fabric colors come together. So we want to set the zipper pull just a little bit back from there. So let me show you that up close. I'm going to set the zipper pull, the end of that zipper, just a smidge back from that seam so it has room to go. Okay, and then I'm going to take my chalk and I'm going to make, well, actually that end I don't have to cut off, so I'm going to just leave that end and go to this end. That end I'll cut off later. This end I have to put a stay on it, so it's important to have that end cut off. So I'm going to make a line right on the zipper chain all the way across there with my chalk to mark where I want to put my new end to my zipper. So I'm going to make a zipper stop there, and then I'm going to cut that zipper right at the edge of the fabric, so I'm going to make a little line where the edge of the fabric is too. If you have an 8-inch zipper, you probably don't have to do this step. Okay, so let's go over to the sewing machine. And since I already have this sewing machine loaded up with the thread for the fabric, I'm going to use that color for my zipper pull as well. So the way you make a zipper pull is a zipper stop, is you go to your marking and you put it right under the center of the zigzag foot, and then you open the zigzag stitching up to a really long, the widest zigzag you have, and then just set a stitch length, probably 2 is good, and then by hand lower that needle and make sure, take that first one by hand and make sure it's going to make it to each side of your zipper before you set your zipper foot down on it. Okay, does everybody see that? Now we're going to lower that presser foot so that we can sew back and forth. And put doesn't want to do it already. And we're just going to sew back and forth a couple of times, zigzagging it so that we have a new zipper stop. Okay? And then once you have that, you can take your zippers and your scissors. Now, don't use your fabric scissors for this, especially if you have metal coil zipper. But cut off the rest of that zipper at that place where you marked it. Okay. All right. Now we're going to bring that over just a little bit here. And, sorry, adjusting this again. A little rough. And I use, in order to put my zipper on, I use double stick zipper tape. So it looks like this. It comes in these rolls that last forever. That's why it has all these threads on it. Okay, and I'm going to take this tape. It's sticky on this side. And sometimes the ends aren't too sticky, so I'm going to cut that end off of that. And I'm going to set it on the edge of my zipper. Okay? And if you look on your zipper, there's a little fine line on there that's just about a zipper foot away from the edge of the zipper. So I'm going to line it up with that, leaving just a bit of the edge hanging over like that. And I'm going to do that with both sides of the zipper. Just in the same spot, trying to stay really straight, which is actually pretty easy because the tape kind of forces you to stay straight until the edge. Okay? And then I'm going to run my fingernail down that to really make sure it's on there good. And I'm going to take, okay? And then I'm going to take apart the edge of the tape. Just take your fingernail and just click it on the edge of that tape, and it'll click back the, it'll click back the tape cover and expose, and this part you can just throw away. It exposes the sticky side of that tape. So one side is stuck to your zipper now, and one side is stuck to your, is facing up, and we're going to stick it to your fabric. And I put that right sides together. So this is the right side of my fabric, and since I'm using an 8-inch square, which you actually can do this in any size, you can make this same pouch out of any size zipper and any size fabric, but I'm using an 8x8, so it doesn't matter which edge I choose. And I'm just going to line my zipper up, and make sure you line up that stop, and make sure that stop is inside that seam line. Okay, and put that right on the edge of the fabric. All right, and then press down, and instead of having pins now, I have a nice firm, camera's kind of sinking, isn't it? I have a nice firm edge all sealed on there with the tape, and that makes it easy to sew. Okay, so we're going to come over here now to our sewing machine and sew that edge on there. This to stay. Okay. goes. Hopefully it'll stay there. It's moving. Okay. Let's get back a little bit maybe. All right. All right. Now we do want to have straight stitch. So change your machine to straight stitch. And we do want to get out our zipper foot. Okay. So a zipper foot looks like this. It just has a one zipper, one side. Okay. So we're going to take that foot off and put the zipper foot on. And you can do that however it happens on your machine. It might be different than mine. Mine, by the way, is a Elna, 1010 Elna. It's an old machine, but it's a great one. I've been sewing with it for all the years. So, all right. Now, you can open your zipper while you sew, and then that keeps the zipper itself out of the way. And we do want to start, in fact, we should close it a little if we're going to start on this edge. We do want to start on the edge where the, so you want the edge of the zipper foot, I'm sorry, having a little trouble with the zipper foot here. You want the edge of that zipper foot to, hang on a second and I'll show you right close in there, because setting the zipper foot right makes every bit of difference in the world here. And for some reason, my zipper foot is being very, okay. All right, so let me zoom you right in there. It might be too bright if I do that. There's a little groove on the zipper foot, okay? And that little groove is where you want to have the zipper run, okay? When my zipper foot is on that groove, the edge of the zipper foot is just a smidge, a little tiny bit. I don't know if that makes it better because it's brighter. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. And the needle is running right along the edge of that stop zigzag that we did. Okay? So just about probably a 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Now I'm running up to where my zipper pull is here. And so I'm going to stop and I'm going to pull up my presser foot and open that zipper past that, okay? Now do you see how this zipper foot is running along the coil? That's how you want it. You want it to run along that coil. It's basically like a little engine running, train running along the rails. Okay? And when you get to the end of that, be careful not to touch that metal. And go back stitch. And there you go. Whew. All right, we're going to do the same thing then with the other edge, which is a little bit different. But we're going to do that in a minute, so hang on. We're going to go over to the iron right now for a minute. And I have my iron heated already, I believe. Yes. So let's come over to the ironing board. And the iron, we are going to just take that edge that we just sewed, clipped any threads you have there that didn't get clipped. All right, and then we're going to take that edge and the incredible syncing camera and iron it back. Okay, So we're going to iron it back from that zipper. Don't put too hot of a iron on that plastic zipper coil. That makes it run harder in the end. Okay? We just want to iron that back from the edge, and then we're going to top stitch along that edge. Okay? So let's come back over here to the sewing machine and iron that, and so we're going to top stitch that edge now, so that, okay, and I'm going to keep my zipper foot on for this actually, and I'm going to use the width of that zipper foot as my distance from my coil. So I'm gonna let the zipper foot run right along the edge of my coil there. Let's see if I can get a better view there. Maybe not. Nope. Is that better? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to run that coil, that zipper foot edge, right across there. Make sure you're on a straight stitch. I use a 2. You can use a longer stitch for when you're top stitching. Some people do, but I just leave mine on a 2. For some reason, my stitch doesn't want to go there, so I'm going to give it a fresh start. Alright. So the width of my zipper foot is probably a 1/4 inch seam. So basically what you're doing is sewing the edge of that zipper to the fabric. So I'm sewing that fabric back against the edge of that zipper. And it's pretty easy to do. Alright, and double back to knot that. Okay, and I'll show you how that looks on the other side. And so it looks like that. See how the edge of the zipper is caught into the fabric there on the edge. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side by taking that strip of zipper, just like we just did. We're going to do that again, and this time we're going to pull this fabric up and paste it along the edge of that zipper. So again, I'm going to take my fingernail and catch that cover slip and rip it off. We don't need that. And then I'm going to actually turn mine over so the zipper's on the top. And I'm going to line up that fabric and the edge of my zipper right along the edge of that fabric. Like that. Okay? And then I'm going to press down really hard with my fingers. Okay? Like that. Okay, now it's nice and stuck and it stays in place while you sew it. Again, I want to line up my zipper foot so that it's lined up with my coil. So I make sure that little dent in my zipper foot is lined up with my coil. And I lower my needle carefully. And I'm sewing really careful because I'm right by that little piece of metal at the beginning, and I don't want to get that caught in my zipper foot. So I'm kind of trying to move around that. And something didn't like what I did, so hang on. Let's see what that was. I'll basically just rip it out and start over when I have that problem. I don't know what it is. Every once in a while it gets a knot or something. Alright, let's try that again. Alright, lowering my zipper, my needle, and backing up, and then staying right on the coil, just like I did before. Right sides together. And if you ride it right on the coil, you don't even have to drive that much because it rides along the rail. Now I am getting to where my zipper is, so I'm going to lift that up and run my zipper past there, my opening to my zipper, and try to set it right back in the same spot and continue doing that. And this is the nice part about having that tape. It's all taped on there, so it's not going to move when you do that crazy stuff I just did. Alright, so here's the situation. I am going to you see how I got a little off there on the sides? I'm going to go ahead and trim that and pretend that I did not. And that will be just fine in the end. Okay? And I'm going to come back over here and trim those edges too. And trim that zipper edge. Alright, now I'm going to now I'm going to open my zipper and go back over to the iron. And do the same thing that I did with the other one. I'm going to iron that edge back. Okay. And again, make sure your iron's not too hot. You can run it right along the plastic zipper, but just make sure your iron's not too hot to do that. And let me move this out where you can see it, hopefully. All right. So it looks like that. And we're going to sew that edge right down, just like we did on the other one. So top stitching, if you want to change your stitch length, this is the time to do that. And I'm going to top stitch right on top of that using my zipper foot width for my guide. And this part gets a little bit crazy. We might want to do that in the end of this. Nope, we're going to have to do it in the beginning. Nope, I'm going to do it in the end. Okay. So using that presser foot to keep a presser foot's distance, zipper foot distance from the edge of the coil, I'm lowering my needle and back stitching and forward. And then keeping your zipper foot edge along the edge of the zipper coil, go ahead. And now you're going to come to the end, and it's going to get a little bit tricky because remember that edge is already sewn in. So let me see if I can adjust this so you can really see closely here. It's going to be a little tricky right here at the end because our fabric we're going to have to sew into there. Okay? So I'm going to pull it down so that there's a circle, an open circle. Okay? And then try to flatten it with my fingers to try and get that top stitching right where I want it. And because we're using a zipper's width, that top stitching is going to work just fine going by that zipper pull because we're already a top stitch width away. Okay? And get your needle out, trim your threads, and there you go. You should have a nice edge now, all taped down. All right, now we're going to close the zipper halfway, and just close it halfway because we want to be able to turn it inside out after we finish this seam. And we're going to go back to our regular zigzag foot. So switch your zipper foot out for the regular foot and arrange your threads as necessary. And then we're going to pinch that zipper so that the coil is sticking up. I'm going to snip a couple of threads. I told you this Echo canvas is a little bit tricky. And then I'm going to sew up that side seam. So in the beginning of this seam, you're going over 2 thicknesses of zipper. So you want to take it a little bit easy there, and maybe a little bit by hand. And try not to go over the zipper coil, okay? And then just stay a 1/4 inch seam. You can just you can go where the color and the white meet if you want to use that as a guide. And then I just turn it around and zigzag right back up the same side. Now, when I zigzag on these, I want to have this pretty much solid. So I'm going to stay with my wide zigzag that I used before, and I'm going to change my stitch length to 1 so that those stitches are really close together. You want to do the closest zigzag your machine will do, and then just stay right along the edge of that and zigzag it, especially right at the end there. I go back and forth several times right on that corner so that it doesn't. And sometimes I even turn it around and zigzag again right back over the area I just zigzagged, just so that it's a pretty solid, almost like an embroidered line on there when I'm done. Okay? And then snip your threads, and like on this Echo canvas, if you have some cutting off, go ahead and trim those now. You can even go over and do it with your rotary cutter if you want to. And I think on this one, we're actually going to use some fray block. So to make sure that doesn't fray anymore, I'm going to do this in a second. So I'm going to go right now and put this in the hot water, because it has to sit in hot water for a minute. Oh, actually it seems pretty liquid, so I'm not going to do that. I guess it doesn't need it every time. And I'm going to put a piece of cardboard under it and shake it up, and then take the top off and squeeze a little fray block right along the edge of that outside of my stitches, okay? Because that Echo canvas does fray. Okay. If you don't have any of that, I think you can actually just use a little bit of glue, might work for that too. Just run a glue stick on it. Okay. Now we're going to do that same thing to the other side. We're going to pinch those sides together, and let's put that zipper down so we can pinch those sides right where they need to go together. So that looks like it's a little bit off. You can see we want to match up those silver dots. But when we put our sewing machine on it, we want to make sure we miss those silver dots. So line them up, get them in there, and then lower the needle. Okay, and I'm going to go just a little bit farther away from there. And I forgot to turn my needle back to straight, so don't forget to do that. And your stitch length back to 2. You don't forget to do that either, because you don't want to be sewing 1 inch one is almost like an embroidery stitch. Okay, going back to that, I'm just going to use the edge of my presser foot on the edge of the fabric there, and I'm going to backstitch and then forward, and that's a little bit off, so I'm going to take this side out, and you can do this anytime this is the situation. But do you see how my two sides are a little bit off from each other? So I'm going to trim that seam before I zigzag it. And again, this is a really good thing to do with your rotary cutter because it cuts straighter than scissors. But since I'm right here, I'm going to do just stitch. I'm just going to cut that with my scissors. Okay, and then I'm going to put that back under. I'm going to switch once again to the fattest zigzag I have and the lowest, basically embroidery zigzag, and zigzag that in. And try that again because for some reason it didn't go anywhere. Let's start that over. Okay. Maybe I didn't set my needle down nicely enough. Alright, let's set the needle and back up a little. Oh, I am not on one, that's why. I wonder that wasn't going anywhere. Okay, when I set my needle back, it was set on 0, which means it's not going to go anywhere. Once again, I'm going to use my edge of my presser foot right there as a guide. And I like to make a nice thick end, so I back and forth a lot right there at the top of that. And I'm going to turn around and go back down. I like this to be nice and thick because the more secure these inside seams are, the better it'll be in the long run. Washing and everything. Because it pencil case is in your backpack, you will want to wash it probably as often as you wash your backpack. All right, then I'm going to take my, we seem to have no light there. There we go. I'm going to take my fray block again and shake it up and put it along that edge for, now normally you would let this fray block dry for a while before you turn this inside out, but since I'm, I didn't leave myself a lot of room to turn inside out. Since we're doing a video, I'm going to go ahead and turn this inside out right now. And I don't have hardly any corners, so I don't have to clip my corners. So I'm just going to poke them out. There we go. And there we go. All right. And you might want to just, I'm going to just give it a quick iron with my iron. And then I'm going to show you how okay. And there you go. There's a quick little case. And I like to use a little bit of grosgrain to stick through the zipper pull to make it easy to pull the zipper back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to just cut off, that's usually, and I want to put a knot in it, so maybe a little bit longer, maybe 3 inches, and cut it off. And then I'm going to just stick that pointy edge through the little pole and catch it with my fingers. Whoops, missed that. Now if you miss one, go for the other edge because they kind of fray off. Alright, and then pull that through halfway and tie a knot. There you go. And you can double knot that if you want to make sure it stays in there in the wash. And it makes it kind of a little bow and makes it a handy little. Maybe trim that a little, the ones that frayed. Again, when you're trimming, you can use your rotary cutter for this. Makes a nice straight line. Alright, there you have it. Thank you.